You should get the recording warning. You
I
got it?
did. Mm-hmm. We good? All right. Hi, everybody. For everyone at Dragon Con at home, this is part of the American Sci-Fi Classic Track. We are from the podcast, The Good, the Bad, and the Nerdy Movie Podcast. I'm the main co-host, Tom Morris. Along with me is Bruce Hunter.
Hi, guys.
Will Cotis.
That's me.
And Valley Cross.
Hello.
All right. So we decided on our podcast, we talk about good movies, bad movies, and nerdy movies. And we've had a wide range of movies we covered over the years. And if you haven't subscribed to us, you can find us on pretty much every platform. Now, one of the recurring things we've all talked about over the course of this podcast has been fantasy movies, especially from the 80s. And there was a lot of unusual decisions made in the mid 80s. We've talked about Labyrinth. We talked about Legend. We talked about Willow. And those are all lovable for different reasons. Today, we're talking about a movie that some people say is good. Some people say is bad. Some people are nerdy about this. But this is also a movie that was so much of a clusterfuck. And I will say, this is not for kids, people, that it almost bankrupted the now largest movie studio in the world. That would be from 1985, from the Walt Disney Studios, The Black Cauldron. Guys, what did you think rewatching this film?
I have one quick question first, though. Is this for Dragon Con TV? Like, we can't be swearing.
No, it's not for Dragon Con TV.
I'm just laughing.
You guys know what's in this mug, right? Let me show you. Booze.
What?
So,
what are we talking about?
I'll get started. Black Cauldron. My experience with this movie is I was 7 years old in 1985, and there was a Scholastic book fair at my school, and that's when I got this. I thought it was a novelized adaptation of the movie. No, it's just the Black Cauldron, second book in the Chronicles of Predain. Good stuff. And I loved the book. I absolutely loved it. But this was a time in my life when my parents didn't take us to movies because there was no movie theater that was anywhere close to our house that wasn't like a shady drug dealer place. So we didn't go to movies for a long time until they tore that one down and built a new one on top of it and had police patrol. So I never saw this movie in the theaters. I haven't seen this movie until yesterday. And boy, howdy, what a ride. Starts off fine. Like, honestly, the opening credits made me jump in my little nerd heart because the opening credits are read by the same actor who played Gandalf in the Hobbit TV movie that came out. I knew
that voice.
I did too.
A few years, several years before.
John Huston, the famous director, but has played Gandalf in every other version before Ian McKellen. He was the voice of Gandalf. So John Huston, he directed, Treasure Sierra Madre. He directed Annie. He directed he had one of the biggest movie careers for directors of all time, and he did the narration the open narration for this movie,
which is amazing. Actually, Treasure Sierra Madre, really underrated film. People should see it. But back to the action of the Black Cauldron. So I read the book and I kept thinking, I don't remember this happening in the book. Like, that was like half the stuff was like, I'm pretty sure that didn't happen in this book. And it turns out I was right. So, and I think that's why. So Tom described this movie to me originally as a hot random mess. I will agree with two of the words in that statement, but I do not agree with the random. This movie was not random. This movie was an attempt by someone to say, okay, nobody who is going to go see this has read any of these books ever, which is a lie, but that's the thinking, right? Nobody who is going to see this has read these books. So they're not going to know who anyone is. So we have to introduce everybody, and we have to do it in the quickest, most efficient way we can. So the opening bit with Taran and Dalben and Henwen, honestly, it's fine. It's classic Disney animation. It's classic Disney backgrounds. It's classic Disney setup. I mean, they're trying to do Sword in the Stone 2, Stone Harder. They fail miserably, but that's what they're trying to do. In fact, they steal some of this animation from that movie and put it in here, specifically with the animation of the sword. But we'll get to it. So the opening sequence is classic Disney. It's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. Henwen gets lost in the forest. we're good. We're good. I'm like, yeah, it's a little trite and contrived, but it's a Disney film. What do you want? Hand animated Disney film. What do you want? And then we meet Gurgi, and I kind of want to pluck my eyeballs out because of his voice. His voice kills me.
It's like a terrible Donald Duck. It's like a really, really bad Donald Duck.
It's
Well,
bad
talking of
Spiegel before we got
furry suit.
Spiegel.
Yes.
Oh,
Well,
but
that's the
like,
thing. If
I mean,
if
that's
you watch,
Disney though. Like Disney has the little animated candelabra thing or the teapot thing, like goofy, ridiculously too cutesy. That's just Disney's bread and butter.
it's not that he's too cutesy. It's that he's cutesy, and his voice is like taking a micro grater and jamming it across the top of my hand repeatedly.
Yep.
It digs into my soul and causes me pain,
You
Bruce.
still have soul. I mean, that's the problem.
A
Will, is you still have
shriveled
some of your
remnant,
soul left.
yes.
But I hear you. I just didn't see that as being that big. I'm sorry.
I think Andy Serkis watched this and took the voice and had them and fixed it. I mean, that's because Smeagol and Gurgi are almost talking identical. I mean, this is literally like, well, we don't have a Smeagol Gollum character in here. Let's just make one because we don't use 13 other characters.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of. I mean, now that you've pointed it out, it does kind of match with the modern interpretation. But at the time, and even now, that voice it's not the Smeagol voice. It's like 3 pitches too high. It's a little too fast. The words are a little Donald Ducky, as Valley said, and it just gets under my damn skin. So I was like, all right, Gurgi's a minor character. This is the comic relief. Shut up. This is the comic relief, and we'll get through it. And then just, holy shit, so much stuff happens in this movie. Where were the people who weren't in this movie? So there's like the horn fucking king shows up, right? And he's like, oh, I'm all evil and I'm not even supposed to be in this book, but I am because we're stupid and we had to have a bad guy that was easy to animate. I mean, I don't know. The Horn King is a disaster from top to bottom. He's kind of creepy, like in the first 3 seconds you meet him, and then he opens his mouth and he sounds like an evil businessman. Who's like he sounds like an evil businessman who is going to like take over the world by running the numbers at a lottery or something. And he's like, I'm looking for the cauldron so I can draw the right number out, and that will give me presidency of the United States, which will then lead me to a nuclear arsenal. It's this really complicated bullshit plan.
Look, don't you be dissing the man who uttered the most quotable line in recent memory. I presume, my boy, you are the keeper of this oracular pig. Come on, I'm going to get a t-shirt with that.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, they got John Hurt to do the voice, and he playing a pretty, evil, John Hurt voice style. So,
right, but evil John Hurt is an evil businessman. It's not evil incarnate with devil horns. It just doesn't work.
Valley, did you see this in theaters, or were you too young?
No, I didn't get to see it in theaters. I hadn't seen it in a long time. I remember the video game. I was very aware of the video game because it was kind of hard to find. So I actually watched it today as well. And I had such high hopes because I started looking at the information on the movie just to kind of refresh my memory. And I was like, oh yeah, this is one of the only movies I remember that Disney's done that's based on Welsh mythology, which is really cool. And then I watched it and I still love it. But yes, that was a roller coaster I was not ready for.
Have you read the book?
No, I haven't read the book. I'm really shocked that out of the 6,000 books I own, I don't own that series. And now I'm going to go for it.
So what's funny is like 90% of the stuff in this movie is not in either of the first 2 books, which is what this is supposed to be based on. Now, a lot of stuff is, but they change it up to sort of fit into this mold of we can only animate 7 characters at a time. So we can't show like the opening of the Black Cauldron is literally we defeated the bad guy and killed the Horned King in the last book. So we're having a council because he's kidnapping people and shoving them in this other bad guy is kidnapping people and shoving them in this cauldron, and we have to get the cauldron away from that guy. And there's a whole sequence of planning. There's a team put together that makes sense. It's not just go to the Forbidden Forest shack and wait. It's the book is actually very, very well done. It does a bit depend on having read the first book, but I first read this. I hadn't read the first book. And while I was a little confused about where certain characters came from, I knew it was the second book in a series, so I would go, oh, that was probably explained in the first book. And it still made sense. Like the story still flows very well. The story makes sense. The characters have motivations. You understand their motivations. You understand why they're making the decisions they're making. It's all fine. The movie just takes all that and crushes it down into like 4 characters, maybe 5 if you include the little like squiggly green goblin guy who's in it for some reason, who's never fucking explained, by the way. Like, where did he come from? Why is he a goblin? Why is he working with the Horn King? Why does the Horn King not just crush him under his booted foot? You know.
But okay, so if longtime listeners of the podcast know that I try to be methodical in my approach. I'm like, what were they trying to do here? How did they go about it? Does it succeed or fail on its own terms? I will say that, like, some of the stuff you're objecting to, I have no expectation of that in a Disney film. Like, why does the villain in Aladdin have a talking animal? Because there's talking animals in Disney films. I mean, and why is there always the little comical sidekick to the villain that they beat up on? Because there's always a little comical sidekick that they beat up on. Like, so for me, I'm opening the door to a Disney film. I'm literally expecting talking furniture and little physical humor gags of like shoving a pig over into a moat. Like, all of that is just bread and butter for a Disney film.
Well, but it wasn't. It wasn't. This was 1985. All the stuff you're referencing came later in the Disney revival.
Sure. But what I'm saying
tropes
is, like,
weren't set. Oh my God, this movie's the trope setter.
Yeah.
This movie's the one that set all the tropes.
Yeah.
But no, but like,
you actually notice something. This predates all the crazy sidekick gimmicks they do.
Yeah, but like Dastardly and Muttley preceded this. Like, it's also an animation trope. Disney didn't.
But Muttley usually gets the one up on Dirk Dastardly.
Disney just sort of rigidly implemented them after this point. They were a little more fluid. But like, where is this in relation to like the animated Robin Hood or Jungle Book?
Much
where
later.
is this?
I can tell you the whole history of this. Okay, so in 71, they bought the rights to this. They bought the rights to all of them, possibly developing a plan to make them all into movies. One of their classic 9 Old Men animators spent about 6 months doing conceptual art. He did the entire book series. There's over 500 conceptual arts for the entire book series done. And I've seen some of the stills. Gorgeous artwork, all like pastels, fantastic, covers the entire book series. From there, they were going to start to figure out where the plot they would come up with, if they were going to do 1 movie or possibly 3. That was discussed at one point, 3 movies. So Robin Hood is in production when they start working on this. So this actually, the plan was to have this originally in 76.
Okay, that explains a lot.
And then in 1980, then it was supposed to come out at the end of 84, but it got an R rating. So they delayed it to redo essentially editing and reshoots, which for animation is not easy to do, to get it down to a PG. Now, 84, they already got the PG-13 rating. So it was so dark that it got an R instead of a PG-13 even.
So I have to ask the question, or I have to make the statement. The ratings people were a lot more sensitive back then than they are now, because I watched this and yeah, it's a little creepy. Like, honestly, I kind of liked the Cauldron Born. Like, I thought their animation was kind of cool. I liked the animation. Overall, I thought the animation was fine. Even Gurgi, who I hate as a character, was fine. Like, his animation is good. He looks like a Disney character. The pig looks like a Disney pig. The characters look like Disney characters in other movies that have people in them instead of anthropomorphic animals or whatever.
Yeah, Tyrant is Arthur. I mean, there's not much of a difference.
There's enough of a difference that I didn't care as much as I did when I was like, oh yeah, that's the sword from Sword in the Stone. But you know, I mean, they did change it up a little bit, and I get that they reused animation all the time. I mean, you look at Snow White, you look at Sleeping Beauty, you look at Cinderella. That's what you do with hand animation, is you reuse what you can because you drew all that shit by hand.
Yeah, well, also, if I recall, this was one of the first ones they actually used computer-generated animation on. This was, I think, the first time they used that with Disney.
Yeah, only Tron before that had they invested in computer animation. This first time they tried to use it in actual live, full animated film.
And I think they used it for the green smoke effect. Was that what they used it for?
Like, I mean, you got Night on Bald Mountain and Fantasia. and that gets a little bit this way. Like it's not like Disney didn't have some of this, although the way I would suggest this, like my experience of this, and back to my like, what were they trying to do? Did they do it? I'm like Disney, heavy metal. What? It's like the animation from Heavy Metal. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
and this is the cut version. Like they didn't show the like when the guy gets pulled into the cauldron. I'm like, oh, it's like Indiana Jones. Oh, he's melting. Like, I mean, like what's the age they wanted for this? It is the most like. And again, I am used to the new Disney. I'm used to modern Disney. I'm used to them, rigid lockstep on everything. And the idea that they had that big of a tonal shift in it, where previously I was like, yeah, that's like the Horn King is sort of scary, but sort of very not. And I took that to be on purpose. Like they have him beat up the little goblin because that's funnier. And then like there's some serious nightmare fuel for a 7-year-old in the Cauldron Born, and certainly in the Death of the Horned King. Like, and that's the edited version. Like, what?
Yeah, I kind of want to see that R-rated cut, really.
Yeah, did they just hire a bunch of the animators from Heavy Metal? Is there going to be a Terrakian in here now?
Like I said, it reminded me a lot of the animation from Wizards. That's
yes,
really, that was
Ralph Bakshi stuff.
Yeah, that was the vibe it gave me. Was like Disney meets Wizards.
Yeah, actually, that's an excellent.
And that's why I really liked it, even though it was kind of a roller coaster. I really liked that style of animation, so I enjoyed it.
Yeah. They tried rotoscope. What's funny? So they tried every gimmick they had. They brought back the old 3-plane gimmick, cameras, which they used up, back in Pinocchio and and Snow White. So they hadn't used those since the 50s. They brought in computer animation. They tried rotoscoping like Ralph Bakshi does. They tried every gimmick. So, and as I point out, they started developing this in the early 70s. In the mid 70s, Ron Miller, who was Walt's son-in-law, basically took over the animation studio. And this was his pet project. He really wanted to get this made. So they started to try to get it ready for 77. They found it couldn't be done in time. So that's why the mini adventures to Winnie the Pooh was released. So we're like, we'll just take some of our old Winnie the Pooh shorts, make one more, put it out. There's our movie for this year. So next it was going to be ready. Then the Rescuers took a lot longer, which that's another case where they bought a bunch of books and kind of took what they could out of it and made their own movie. Because those are the Miss Bianca series.
Yep.
This was supposed to follow the Rescuers and come out in 1980. They still were having problems with it. Now, you'll get a kick out of this. Guess who was supposed to be the lead character animator on this film? Tim Burton.
That would have been interesting.
Honestly, Tim Burton's Black Cauldron would be kind of amazing.
Get the TARDIS. We're going back. That one's going to happen. We're going to make Hitler can live a long and happy life. We're going to go get that movie made.
Don Bluth was going to direct it, and Tim Burton had done all the character designs. And there is plenty of like stills. They're like, if you see him, it looks like Jack Skellington character. I mean, it's straight Nightmare Before Christmas designs, and he had done all these character designs. Now, he was also like, if you're not, Tim Burton worked for Disney for about 5 years. Like, if you've seen the Fox and Hound, that creepy, scary tree, that's all him. So Tim Burton was supposed to be the lead animator on at least for character work, and John Lasseter was working on. A lot of these big people went on to animation later on, worked on this on what was going to be the 1980 version. That got shelved because they were the same thing. They were thinking it was getting too out of the box. So they decided to hire some of the old original guys to come back and clean it up. So Burton left. Don Bluth quit to go start his own studio. So, out of this, we got Secret of NIMH as kind of a revenge project.
Yeah.
So
I
was going to say the Nimrats did a guest star there in a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's certainly elements.
Lost about a third of their animation staff because of this film. They all went to go work for Don Bluth or went to other projects. Pixar picked up a lot of people out of this. And on top of that, a couple other so Fox and Hound had to come out next. That got delayed to 81. Mickey's Christmas Carol was supposed to be a full 90-minute movie. They had to cut that down to about 30 minutes, which became a short. So finally they got onto this one. And they spent about 3 years trying to make this. And at this time, Ron Miller becomes full head of the company. It almost gets taken over in a hostile takeover. He has to step down. That's when Michael Eisner comes in to basically save the company's stock value. So he comes in, he puts Jeffrey Katzenberg in charge. Now they're almost finished with the film. They do a test screening before they even get the R rating with kids. According to all reports, one mother had to take her 3 crying kids out of the test screening about the point the Cauldron Born were being created. Not before the
oh wow,
Born King gets killed. Just the Cauldron Born stuff was so terrifying, they had to take 3 screaming kids out. So at that point, Katzenberg's like, I don't know if this is going to work. They get an R rating. He immediately takes the film into an editing bay himself, even though he doesn't know how to edit animated films, and starts cutting stuff. He cuts and cuts. It apparently was 2-hour cut originally. He cut it down to about 70 minutes. The producer and directors, and there were at one point 6 different people directing this film. They got down to 2 eventually. They begged Eisner to let them fix it themselves. So they delayed it from Christmas of '84. This would have been a Christmas movie to July. When I found it came out July 23rd. So we're almost at the 36th anniversary of this film.
The feel-good Christmas movie of the season, right there. Bring your Cabbage Patch Kids, throw them into a cauldron for play action.
Just to hammer it home, though, like, I'm just not sure what they were like. I guess the answer is they weren't trying any one thing because it didn't get done in one go. Like, there's no consistency of vision in this thing. Like, I still kind of like it because it is such a curveball. Like, there's just such a curveball in the tone that I enjoyed it. That's because I don't enjoy Disney films. Like, I have not gone seeing Lion King. I don't go see Aladdin's. I don't want that experience. I have never spawned and had children. If anyone in the audience knows differently, call me. But I've never spawned children. I've never been like involved in children's fare, and I don't enjoy it because it's so, as I was saying, Disney. Oh, he killed the thing. He hit the little guy. The little guy, and this one is like that, and then suddenly badunk, and then the thematic of like, well, then I'll give up the thing is sort of Disney, but also just sort of not. Like the fact that they were tricked by the hags, and like the hags are actually not good somehow in the end. Like, all of that is just a lot more interesting than a Disney movie.
It is, but the problem is you have tonal ping pong here, where Disney dark, Disney dark, Disney dark, Disney dark. I mean, in one sequence, which is the witch sequence, so they go to the marshes of Morva to meet the witches, which they don't know there's going to be witches, but we all know there's going to be witches because it's a witch house.
There's always witches.
How could it not be a witch house? I mean, if I was a witch and I was looking for real estate, prime location.
No, this is you just walk into the bog.
Exactly, you just go into the bog. There's probably going to be a house full of cauldrons and frogs. That's just how these things work.
Like, I don't know why the Horn King didn't just think to look there, because that's where I would hide a cauldron.
Well, you know,
it's sort of the
he
Indiana
never leaves
Jones.
his house. You know why? Because he's Skeletor. Like, his closest equivalent in this is he's Skeletor, which is why you have this, like, because Skeletor, the character from He-Man, for those of you who aren't familiar, is a super, like, jacked and roided out wizard with a skull face. He's awesome. But he's also got this really weird high-pitched voice, and he's just evil for the sake of, I love being evil.
Oh, man.
I love Skeletor. Anyway, so the Horn King is trying to be Skeletor, but he just never leaves his castle. Like, he never leaves his castle in this movie. He doesn't take one step out. I guess the animators couldn't animate him on rocks or something, because he never leaves the castle.
Well, but
like,
in the books, is the Horn King like a demon thing?
In the Horn King,
or is he a dude with a horned hat? Like, what is he?
In the books, he's actually, in this book, in the second book, he's dead. In the first book, he's a terrorizing figure, but he's mortal. He's not like, it's sort of
dude in a hat.
It's not really explained if he's like semi-magical. Like, he's magical, but he's not immortal. He's not like a fairy or a wizard or whatever. He's just a magical guy, and he does get killed. Truly murdered. But he's magical because you can't kill him without a certain thing, and they get the thing because it's a fairy story. It's really good. Anyway, my point is, in this, he never leaves his castle, and they go to the thing, and it is straight up Disney witch, right? There's the frogs are very cartoony. The design of the witches is very
Cinderella's godmothers,
but like with warts.
The one looks like
Madam Mim.
And yeah, she's the most impressive in several ways of the three. Mainly she has more lines, but they're very cartoonish, right? And then all of a sudden they drop this complete bombshell of, oh yeah, we completely tricked you. We're horrible people, and we're gonna eat you because we're gonna turn you into frogs. We're gonna eat you and murder you right here, right now. I've got the spoon. I'm about to put your friend in my mouth and eat you.
During the little bit like flirt thing, like I turned him into a frog. I'm gonna bite him. Like they're gonna eat him right then.
Right, that's dark. But it contrasts with that whole comedic like tree dancing thing that you would see in like a Disney film. I mean, they got the comedic witch, they got the other comedic witch, and then they got the one who wants to eat everybody, who's also kind of funny. And then they're suddenly not funny. And it's really hard to tell when that shift happens, but they're suddenly completely unfunny, scary as hell. And then they immediately shift back when they start talking about, oh yeah, we're going to trade in the cauldron. It's going to trick him. Ha ha ha. That's very Disney like in its thing. Mm-hmm. And you're just bouncing all over the place. And they're like, we're going to trade. And he's like, but I don't want to give up my awesome sword because it's awesome. And they're like, give us the damn sword, son of a bitch. He's like, fine, I'll give it up. And he does. And honestly, Taran here kind of gets the short end of the stick in pretty much every situation. Also, Ellen Wee, best Disney princess or best Disney princess? You decide.
She doesn't get enough credit. Like, why does she not show up with the rest of the princesses? That is so not cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, really?
Right?
Well, that's because they want to pretend this never happened.
Oh, that's true. You'll kick it. They actually built a Black Cauldron attraction at Tokyo Disneyland. Because they were in production. This was coming out right as they were about to open.
I love Japan. I love
Tokyo
Japan.
Disney, you say?
Yes, Tokyo Disneyland.
Is that where we're going, Tom? Is that where we're going? I'm just asking questions.
Yeah.
Well, didn't Disney World actually had one of their little snack huts was actually named after the character, and it was like his munchies and crunchies.
Tokyo Disney, it wouldn't surprise me if there was a vending machine with used princess panties in it. Like that's Japan.
Never say that. Never say those words again. Cursed individual.
Ladies and gentlemen.
So anyway, so the tone ping pong.
Japan.
And then like there's the big climax, right? They get captured by the bad guys. The cauldron is retrieved by very cartoonishly oafish guys. I mean, these cartoons, these could be the ogres from the Gummy Bears cartoon. They're so cartoonishly bad guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they just straight up one of them straight up gets eaten by Cauldron Board. That dude
get
died.
murdered.
There's no question about what happened to his ass. And I'm like, I guess we're getting rid of the comic relief in the Transformers the movie fashion. We're just gonna kill the old cast.
But this is very solid villain planning. Like your minions are already low caliber. Go ahead and just kill them and make deathless minions of them. Win-win.
Yeah, I was. The Horn King's doing makes sense. I'm gonna have. By the way, also.
Well, but no, there's only like one thing though. Like there's no. All right, go forth and destroy everything. Why? It's already your kingdom. You're already king. What? What is the conflict? Why does he need an army? He already runs the place.
Because there's again off screen, they couldn't animate the rest of the kingdoms. They could only animate the one. They're like, we got 3 backgrounds. We borrowed one from He-Man. We're using the hell out of it.
But they legitimately don't even voice it. Like, who he fighting?
Dalbin, apparently. The pig. Oh, you know what? I completely forgot about this. They completely sidelined the pig. Like, pig's no longer important. Shove her out of the film.
Yeah.
Because they find the fairy people, I guess, who look nothing like they were described in the book. But they find the fairy people, and there's the cranky one, Dolly, who goes with them, and like they're like being hovered up into to go to Morva, right? And they're just like, well, what about the pig? He's like, no, we'll take her back. It's cool. And we're like, we're just supposed to accept that happened. Like, okay, I guess I'm out of the film. We can't animate any more pigs. We ran out of pig budget.
But I mean, what's the pig gonna do?
I don't know, but it just seemed very tidy bow to wrap everything up.
And is this just a Wales thing? Like you go to Wales and like every third tavern is called the Oracular Pig. Like, is that just a pigs tell the future sometimes in Wales? Haha, we all know this. Like, I know that Wales is all about the dragons and the wyverns and things. Like, I knew that the coats of arms are dragons, but this is my first ride with an oracular pig. And even the Horn King is not surprised. Well, I presume you are the pig keeper for the oracular pig. Like, that's a job in Wales? Is that a thing? Like, does the book give some, like, how does a pig become an oracle? Or is it just like oracular pig, like you have?
Maybe they have oracular pig testing day where everyone brings their like hogs and sows and just plops them down in front of a bucket full of water. And some old dude sticks a stick in it and says some words. And if they suddenly see the future in it, like buy Apple stock or Bitcoin's gonna rise. I mean, I want an oracular pig. I kind of do.
Like pigs are sort of hard to tell apart. I mean, like, do you eat the bacon and then you become an oracle? I mean,
I'm pretty sure that the bacon renders the oracular part irrelevant.
By the way, Bruce, I gotta ask, you had the best opportunity to see this in theaters. Did you have any interest in seeing this when it was first released?
I have no memory of it. I don't know. I'm very old, so sometimes the past is just gone, and that doesn't even count the drinking.
I was 6. I do remember the advertising because I had Disney Channel, and they put a lot of advertising on the Disney Channel, hoping we would go see this.
I legit have. I've seen the books. That book he showed is physically familiar, but I don't even remember if I read it. Yeah,
Rise, my minions, become a novel series that no one will read until 3 years after they should.
Well, that's the other thing. Is like, what age are the books for? Because
they're young adults.
I will say the whole story is a little bit above a Disney story one. Yeah. Like, I'm gonna make a Disney film about a necromantic cauldron. Like, what? Can't we just stick with the lost girl and the mice going to save her? Like, Disney plot line, just like on the whiteboard, or I guess the chalkboard or whatever.
They ever pulled something out of Welsh mythology, everything else came from German or English or French. Maybe that's the reason they didn't go back and pull more things out of Welsh mythology, because it's all like that.
Well, but I'll just say this. Fairy tales and mythology are just awful. Like Hansel and Gretel, that did not end well. Like nursery rhymes are all like, hi, child, you will die and your brains will come out. Like, I mean, children.
You should see the Hans Christian Andersen version of The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
Let's just say it doesn't end in a wedding.
But they've all been rewritten so many times that they've been made palatable for children. And I don't know that Welsh folklore's done that.
This is very palatable to children. Like, I've read the entire series a couple of times. I really like it. I would put it on par with it is a much better Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, because it's not an allegory. It's just folk tales sort of all combined together to make a coherent story. It's very good. I actually think it is a good for an adult read, although it's a light read. It's not a heavy read for an adult. But I read these as a kid. I've read them when I was a young adult, so like 20, 22, 25, somewhere in that vague range where I was at my peak.
But you also didn't want to see the movie. I mean, I
didn't have an opportunity to see the movie. Like, I didn't realize it was a movie until I saw the book, and I was like, oh, that looks cool. Oh, it's already out of theaters. Like, it was out of theaters like that. And I never saw any advertising for it. We didn't have Disney Channel. We didn't have. I didn't pay attention to commercials unless they were for toys. That was just a failing of mine when I was 7. I mean,
I was aware.
Yeah. I was aware of this somehow, but I don't know how I was aware of it. Like, I wasn't surprised when you brought it up. I wasn't surprised I even knew of it as the thing that Disney Studios did that was too adult and they were worried of it. Like, I had that vague cultural absorption of the film. I even sort of vaguely, every character that appeared, I was like, I have seen this before, but it's gone. Some of the Strago washed it away.
Yeah. A couple of random thoughts. I like the character designs. Even Gurgi, whom I don't like as a character, I thought the design was fine. Maybe not given how the plot ends, but which is actually kind of lame. The plot is a pure Disney ending. Like, that does not happen in the book. Gurgi is not involved with the destruction of the cauldron in the book. That doesn't happen. So the fact that he's the guy here and it happens is kind of a surprise. Ultimately, I love the designs. I thought the animation was pretty. I even liked the performances were all fine. I mean, Taran was a little flat. Ellen, we didn't have enough to do. I liked Fleur Flam. Reminded me of me. Old angry man who lies a lot. That's
Alumni is probably the best princess. I enjoyed her. Like, I like how she's escaping and it's all just very she proto Hermione's it. She's just like, of course I'm escaping. Why wouldn't I escape?
Yeah, she's great. I love her. I loved her character in the books. I love her character in the movie. Can't complain. The pig is well animated and does pig things. You can't be mad at a pig. It does comedy stuff. I even like the little goblin guy. I mean, he's kind of out of place, but he's there. The part that did make me laugh out loud was when he goes, "Oh, don't worry, sir, I'll take care of it," and he starts choking himself.
I did laugh at that. I laughed at that a lot.
That was great. I love
I'm
that.
like, why did no one not do that for Vader? Like that someone should have done that with Darth Vader. Oh yeah, I got it. No, don't trouble yourself.
And I was pretty sure, I mean, you could slap those two into a He-Man episode, no problem. And then it just goes so dark so quickly, and then it's super dark, and then it kind of bounces back to comedy for a couple of minutes, and then it bounces back, and then the ending is just like, I guess the movie's over. We ran out of animation budget. Let's go. Yeah. I mean, which makes sense given the history.
So rushed, like everything is so sped up so fast. I'm like, I would have been like, throw some montage in just to give it a break. It's like they go quickly, like they find the cauldron so fast. It gets destroyed so quickly too. I'm like, there should have been more. And I know like they cut a bunch out, and there's apparently lots of lost footage that they finished that they had to take out because it was either too dark, or to tone it down, they had to cut a lot out. I mean,
I want to see that cut. I really do.
Yeah,
I think
I want to see the original R cut.
Other random
I also love that
movie.
Nobody sang. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Will.
No songs. This was the first movie they tried without music. I mean, there's music even in The Fox and the Hound, which is kind of awkward when they put it in there. They wrote no music. They were like, this will be a first. We don't have to do songs for them. They have a minstrel who doesn't sing.
I was expecting it. I was waiting for that through the whole first 2/3 where it's pretty Disney track. I mean, there's some shades and foreshadowing that this is going to go bad places, but it's very Disney-ish. And I'm like, he's not going to sing about the pig. He's going to sing about the pig. He didn't sing about the pig. It was stunning.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to like in this movie. There's a lot to dislike in this movie. It's a very inconsistent experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It just ping pongs all over the place. The tone is wildly varying. At the beginning, I thought the beginning was actually pretty good. From a what did they try to accomplish? What did they accomplish? It sets up a few characters. You kind of get the point. They introduced the Horn King a little fast, but it's a Disney movie, whatever. They don't have to explain to you why Jafar is evil. Jafar is evil. Fair enough. But after that, it just starts to ping pong in tone and its speed. Everything is so quick. Why is there only one castle that they go to? It's okay, clearly you go to the evil castle. And how did Flufferter Flam not realize, oh, this is the evil castle? I mean, look at it. It's not like
it's in the middle of a cursed
no one is going to mistake this for a nice place ever. I like that there's just random fair folk in whirlpools. There's a whole thing about building the most Disney thing in this movie is the fair folk, where they have that bit where the king and Doily are trying to build, I guess, a water slide. I don't know what the point of that contraption was supposed to be.
And I noticed they recycled some of that for Little Mermaid, because I was like, some of those fair folk look like some of the sea fish, like the seahorses in Little Mermaid. They just recycled it later.
Oh yeah, they recycled a ton in this film. I mean, reduce, reuse, recycle, right? That was starting to be big. Save the oceans, kids.
Okay, I gotta bring up something real quick. Okay, 3 of us have kids. I let Charlie watch this. Charlie just turned 8. He was interested up to a point. He didn't even get scared. He was very getting interested in it. But I was also like, I don't know if he'll handle the cauldron stuff. So he went to bed. It was getting late anyway. Did either of you guys let your kids watch this?
I did not.
Mine's with the grandparents, so no. But I thought about it. I'm not
Would
sure.
you let them watch it now?
I would probably let my daughter try to watch it and see what she did, because I also had my daughter was at the grandparents last night, so thumbs up there. But I would probably let her try it because she'd probably enjoy the animation. I don't think she'd enjoy the story, but my kid likes stuff that I don't like, so
I think mine Cauldron Born, just because even though he likes all kinds of scary fun stuff, for some reason zombie things bother him. So I think that the Cauldron Born are probably close enough to that one thing he doesn't like that he probably would get a little icky about it. The rest of it he'd probably really enjoy.
Yeah, Charlie likes zombie stuff, but I think the actual way this is depicted, especially how the Corn King gets basically ripped to shreds, probably freak him out pretty bad.
Indiana Jones full on melt, man.
Yeah.
Like when
And,
when the goblin guy picks up one of the corpses, like, do something. I burst out laughing at that because it was so fun. And it's so out of tone with everything else that just happened, because literally Gurgi has dropped to his death into the cauldron. All kinds of crazy magical crap is happening. Why are you making a joke?
I know.
Anyway.
Once again, that's probably another decision they made to try to tone it down. Like they had to okay. You could just see where weird stuff was inserted to try to lighten this up so they could get a better rating, and more importantly, hope that it would be kid friendly enough. It really was. This is a case where they probably should not have tried to make it a kid, market for kid.
They should have tried more adults.
But Tom, I feel like a little offended that you didn't ask me if I would show this to children, because I haven't happened to have any that I know of. So I'm going to answer the question. And the answer is, if anyone ever puts me in charge of children, I'm going to make them watch this. So don't.
Yeah. Well, I knew your answer would be, oh, yes, they will definitely watch this. But no, I've said it before, this is a problem where if they were going to do it, they should have just gone for it, accepted the R rating, and just said, this will be our first adult film. Do not bring your kid. They should literally stress, don't bring kids. This is not kid friendly. They went the other.
Adult animated movies were not a new thing at that point. I mean, we had other things that were out that were definitely appropriate for children.
Heavy metal.
Yeah, heavy metal, Watership Down.
That's the second feature in my babysitting day.
Yeah. Last Unicorn. I mean, that movie is scarring to children.
Yeah, it was mostly Ralph Bakshi was like the adult animated stuff.
Yeah.
But so Tom, you did ask me to give you the 3-minute warning here. We're at 3 minutes, sir.
Okay. Well, folks, we do need to go and wrap this up. So anyway, if you enjoyed this, check us out. Our podcast is the Good, the Bad, and the Nerdy Movie Podcast. We're going to go round table. All right. Who thinks this is, Bruce, what's your take? Good, bad, or nerdy?
I can't call it good because I still don't know that they were trying to do anything. Like, that's my thing. How well they do what they were trying to do? And I can make no sense of what they were trying. Now, I liked it despite that. I don't know that it's good. It's nerdy. It's absolutely nerdy, except that it's so unfaithful to its source. If it were better at that, I would call it nerdy. So I can't even give it that, but I won't call it bad wholeheartedly either. So I'm just totally wishy-washy on this one.
That's fine. Will?
I think this falls into nerdy, although it's like nerdy plus bad. It's nerdy because they were doing a ton of different stuff. They tried a ton of different experimental stuff. It had a bunch of problems and it didn't work, but at least they tried new stuff. Now it cost them, but they tried a whole bunch of new stuff. And I mean, there are some gems of good ideas in this mess. I think people should go see it. I enjoyed it for what it was. It's on Disney Plus. If you got Disney Plus, you should see it. I don't know that I would do I don't know if I would pay.
You wouldn't buy it.
I certainly wouldn't buy it. And as for it being a kids movie, I mean, Last Unicorn, a bunch of other films of that era, Watership Downs, I saw those all around this time. So, your mileage may vary.
Yeah. Valley?
Absolutely nerdy. I would definitely put it in nerdy. It's got a cult following. It's one of those that they tried to bury it, and we won't let them bury it, obviously, because we're doing this podcast about it. So I would definitely throw it in nerdy because it's got good elements, it's got bad elements. So, but definitely it's not going to go anywhere. It's sticking around because of nerds like us.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been leaning toward bad, but I think I'm going to stick with this as a nerdy film. If you're a Disney completist, which there are a lot, you have to see this film. If you're looking for a bizarre fantasy film, this is up there. And if you're if you read the books, you want to see what they tried to do. As we point out, they bought the rights to a 5-book series, tried to squeeze 2 books into one movie, and even then they threw a lot of stuff out. So it's an interesting take. And if you're an animation fan, you can see where Disney was trying things. Some of it worked, some of it didn't, and this led to a lot of future things that Disney would go on to. So if you're a Disney fan, this is definitely a nerdy itch. Now, I do want to point out one hilarious detail. This was never put on video. Eventually they never re-released it, but they almost did. So in 1990, they tested a new name for this movie. It was going to be called Taran and the Magic Cauldron. Taran and the Magic Cauldron. They even made a trailer that they tested, and it's all hacky footage. They made a poster of Taran holding the sword, no Horn King, no cauldron, nothing. So they tried a different perspective. It didn't work, so they just simply pretend it didn't exist. And then in 1998, It was the first movie they put on DVD, and it sold 1 million copies.
I had no idea.
That's the forbidden fruit. Yeah.
Right. It's not it's not the Song of South Forbidden Fruit, but this is a case where we didn't even put it on video. So yeah.
And we lost. There you go. You're right. It was so like, forbidden. Tom disappeared for a moment when he talked about it.
But yeah, anyway, folks, for those of you watching at home, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please check us our podcast out as well. We all got lots of great episodes. And if you're looking for any funny movie takes, we've got a lot, including our whole epic 12 Days of Star Wars. Valley and I did a great take on Raiders. We're going to try to do some more Indiana Jones coming up soon. And, we've got a lot of different ones. So please check us out our podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And, like I said, as we said before, please, 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 if you are going to have a pig that can see the future, just put a leash on it. And keep the leash on it.
The sad part was he did have a leash. I don't know where the leash went.
Exactly.
Like, it was there 1 minute, it's gone. And they couldn't animate the leash anymore. They ran out of leash money.
Thank you all.
Hey, I didn't mention Tom Hanks even once.
You know what's hilarious, Bruce? This came out the same week as Man with One Red Shoe.
Fucking course it did.
He was still on the cocaine then, though. That was kind of funny.
Yeah, on that, I didn't get to bring this up, but on the Siskel and Ebert episode, I sent you guys a link for it. They reviewed That Explorers, Heavenly Kid, and this one. All of them got thumbs down, except Ebert gave Black Cauldron thumbs up. He gave it thumbs up. Siskel gave it thumbs down, although he said his two favorite characters were the pig and the creeper. He said those are the ones he liked the most. So he liked the goblin guy and the pig.
That doesn't surprise me.
No. But yeah, I just rewatched it. I was like, man, there's so much they almost got right.
I am stopping the recording, sir.
Yes.